Perhaps the finest leader this country has ever had once suggested that the three hardest things a man can do is to climb a wall that's leaning towards him, one is to kiss a girl that's leaning away from him, and the third one is to make an after-dinner speech. Now, had Winston Churchill turned his hand to business development, I do wonder whether or not he might have changed that last one around a bit. Sometimes you get lucky. For example, discovered penicillin completely by accident, and many of us are obviously very grateful for that. But there are several reasons why business development is hard to do, and here are just some of them. First and foremost, though, is it's very difficult to come up with a new idea that somebody hasn't already thought of, that somebody hasn't already implemented. On the 4th of January 1999, the lira, the French franc, the Deutschmark all disappeared overnight. So obviously the currency markets that they were supporting disappeared too, as did the money markets that they were all a part of. There was a massive amount of innovation leading up to that point and beyond as people fought for what would become the new benchmark products of monetary union. But since then there's been a very few successful, innovative products that you can trade on exchanges. The notable exceptions might include the VIX products that trade on the CBOE, the volatility products that have taken particularly proprietary trading customers by storm. These are very, very successful instruments, protected by intellectual property, and they're so successful that the CBOE's made enough money to come and buy us, that's Europe. But others haven't been so successful, and some have been short-lived. Some have been created perhaps for the wrong reasons. The subprime issues and the mortgage-backed securities were not properly understood even by the people that were creating them and selling them, and we all know where that led to. That's not uncommon. If you're trying to sell something, you really, really do need to understand what it is that you're designing. And if you may not have that expertise, that's fine. None of us know everything. None of us have been involved at the rock face of trading certain products or clearing certain instruments or designing certain services. But if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing it. You should be bringing in people that do. Work with your clients, help them, let them help you design your products and services, but don't assume that you know what it is that they want. Some things might seem simple, and when you present it to your customers, it should appear simple, but behind the scenes, they can be quite difficult. Even the marketing side of things can be really difficult. But any one particular point in that whole program of work that you need to do can unravel and cause something to fail. The future's really, really tough to predict. Nobody really knows what's going to happen in the next few months, years. So designing a product or a solution now for a current need, by the time you get there, may no longer be relevant. Technology advancement, certainly in financial markets, has been around computerization and networks. Things happen far more quickly. Information travels far more quickly. Regulatory change. MiFID was a major change for European markets. We've heard some of the changes that have been brought about because of the financial crisis, and we're just facing off to a whole bunch of changes coming into Europe and beyond in the next few years. Customer demand. Yeah, you and I as retail customers do change our appetite for things. We do want something different from time to time. We are fed up with the old status quo. You need to be current. You need to understand what your customers are looking for and what they need. And the competition. Any business you go in, you're always watching what the competition is doing, and they're always watching what you're up to. Some businesses simply copy what the last guy has done. It's safer that way. It's a pretty riskless strategy if you can copy something fairly inexpensively and do it. Because one thing we know in these markets is there's absolutely no loyalty in financial markets from our banks, from our brokers, from our proprietary trading firms to the products, the services and the exchanges that they operate on every day of the week. They will move their business if they need to. And the one reason that they will move their business is that they do not tolerate monopolies in our financial markets. The only proven way to keep the provider of the services honest, make sure they continue to innovate, make sure they don't exploit the position that they have in the market, is to put competition in the way. Which is why you see, particularly the banks, creating new entities all the time. They create them, they compete, they back them, they succeed, they sell them. And this cycle will continue for years to come. Client levers. You've got an idea, you've heard of an idea, you may have instigated it, somebody may have suggested it to you, you've now gone into a meeting, having thought about it, discussed it with your colleagues, try to put some sort of framework around it. You need to understand quite what it is that you're doing, but you need to pull some levers when you talk to your clients. The obvious levers are, does this solve a problem for me as a client, the problem that I need to deal with? Regulation is a perfect case in point. Regulation imposes huge amount of change which is expensive, it's difficult to do. If someone comes along and says, I'm providing a solution to you and everybody else in the industry, here it is, it's very simple, it's not going to cost you very much, you can take a huge problem away and you may win. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. You could probably tell me who said that? Thomas Edison. The interesting thing about Thomas Edison is now more and more people are taking the view that the real genius of his time, and some would argue the inventor of the 20th century, a certain Mr. Tesla, actually did most of the work and should get more of the credit. Another quote. I've failed again and again and again. That's why I've succeeded. Do you know who said that? Exactly. And he's worth over $1 billion now. So he wasn't just a good basketball player, he had other skills. The more I practice, the luckier I get. Now, that's Arnold Palmer, by the way. So you shouldn't be fearful of business development. It's a very exciting, very challenging part of the markets to work in. But equally, you shouldn't pretend that everything you touch is going to turn to gold, because it won't. But if you do things in the right way, and you do things for the right reasons, then you stand a much better chance of getting out the other side with a successful product. Thank you.